So I woke up in a good mood for once the other day. I got up early, had a nice breakfast, went to work, didn't threaten to kill anybody. Was in such a good mood, in fact, I decided I was going to treat myself. And what better way could I think of than going to see Madam Webb in theaters? And being in such a good mood, I decided I couldn't possibly go by myself, so I invited 4 of my friends along who had no idea what the hell they were getting into.
I'm going on an adventure!
Now, sitting through the movie, we were just having the time of our lives. We were laughing and smiling the whole time, and if you can't tell at this point, I'm being incredibly sarcastic.
What?
Except for the having fun and laughing part, because this movie is fucking hysterical. And it's not a comedy. So just so you guys can have an idea of what I went through watching this film, I'll go ahead and break it down for you real quick.
Fuck.
So the movie starts off in the rainforest of Peru back in 1973, where we're following a heavily pregnant Constance Webb, a scientist who's on the hunt for a mythical spider that could supposedly give you superhuman abilities and possibly cure illness. She's accompanied by her partner Ezekiel and 2 random-ass guys that don't fucking matter. Why is she in the rainforest when she's about 5 seconds away from shitting out a baby? We don't know for now, but we will later. So after about 5 seconds of searching, they find this magical spider, and Ezekiel ends up betraying them, shooting the 2 randos, and then him and Constance get into a tug-of-war match, where he accidentally shoots her and leaves her to die. Just when all hope seems lost, magical spider people come out of the trees looking goofy as fuck, and they bring her back to their magical cave, where they have her bitten by one of these magic spiders, and the baby comes out, and Constance dies. Fast forward to 2003, and little baby's all grown up now. How the fuck she got back to America, along with all of her mother's research papers and pictures and all this other shit, and somehow got a birth certificate, and somehow got put in the foster system, I don't know, they don't know, fuck it. Now she's an EMT along with her partner who just so happens to be Uncle Ben from the Spider-Man comics. And within a total of 5 minutes, she manages to run into the other 3 main characters of this movie, just by chance. What are the fucking odds? So her and Ben are on call and they end up going to a car that's been flipped over, and as she's trying to get the man out of the car tips over and she ends up into the water and drowns. This is where her powers unlock, and then she's brought back to life, and all of a sudden she's clairvoyant and can see to the future.
Come on!
Welcome back to the land of the living.
So then we meet back up with Ezekiel, who's in an opera house, in a scene that goes on for entirely too long, and he's trying to hook up with some random-ass lady. So he ends up getting this woman back to his apartment, where they end up doing the horizontal shuffle, and then he passes out, and we end up seeing a vision that he apparently has every night ever since he got his spider powers, of him being murdered by 3 spider women. He then wakes up and decides to explain to the woman he brought home that he's going to be murdered by 3 teenage girls and he needs to kill them first. Oddly enough, this woman is incredibly okay with this entire explanation and doesn't act like he's an absolute psychopath.
Sister in Christ! Ma'am! Madam!
Then we find out he brought this woman home for a specific reason. She is an NSA agent, and he needs her password in order to access all the cameras in all of New York City. So he ended up poisoning her with his black hand poison magic bullshit. As the poison's creeping through her body, he tells her he needs her password in order to access all these cameras, and without hesitation, as if he wasn't going to kill her anyway, she just immediately gives up this information. We then meet back up with Cassie, who's at a baby shower for Mary Parker, Peter Parker's mom, but they're not going to say that because they don't have the rights.
FBI, open up!
We get a couple of obnoxious moments of product placement thanks to Pepsi. We then watch Cassie try to interact with people, but she looks more like Mark Zuckerberg trying to pretend to be a human. And it's at this point in the movie where they actually have a genuinely funny joke that made me chuckle about dying in childbirth in the middle of a baby shower, and it's fucking hilarious. But, of course, they couldn't just let the joke go. They had to beat it over the head until it was not funny anymore. So an emergency call comes in and all the EMTs have to leave to go to this emergency. We then watch Cassie give a man CPR for about 5 minutes straight and nothing seems to work until all of a sudden her boss calls her over to go do something else and the guy casually gets up like he was just taking a nap. She then sees her boss dying and for some reason she doesn't do shit about it. She starts fucking off and then he dies and then she has about the reaction you would expect of going, "No, stay with me." I've seen more emotion out of this fucking guy.
Clear Eyes is awesome. Wow.
We then cut back to Ezekiel, who's decided to hire himself a woman who will scan all the cameras in the city and help him track down these women. How they do that? He basically gave her a description of these women, and magically she was able to give a perfect rendition of all of their faces, even though in his dream they wear a mask the entire time. How the fuck this happens? No idea. Doesn't make any sense. He then also explains his entire premise for being in the movie for a second time to a random woman. So again, almost instantly, she manages to track down these women, and they all happen to be in the same exact fucking place. Once again, what are the fucking odds? Cassie also happens to be at this train station, and they all happen to end up on the same exact train car. She then starts having more wonky visions, where she sees Ezekiel come down the train and instantly murder these 3 women. She then casually tells the girls that they need to get off the train due to an emergency, and without hesitation they all listen, aside from one, who Cassie then decides to steal her skateboard and play keep away with her to a point where it's fucking embarrassing. It's kind of like watching an adult play the jump for it game with a child.
Oh, you almost had it. You gotta be quicker than that.
So she then tells the girls that this man is trying to kill them all, and all of them react as if they were coma patients. So somehow he manages to get off the train, put on a spider suit, and get on the ceiling within about 2 seconds, and they all see him crawling towards them, and they're like, oh, there's a dude on the ceiling. So they start running away, and a couple of cops stop them, and they begin to arrest Cassie for abducting children. And I shit you not, they put handcuffs on her. Like, you hear them lock and everything, and Ezekiel comes out of nowhere and takes out all the cops, and she just gets up and her handcuffs are gone, and they all run away. So Cassie then steals a cab because kidnapping children is already not enough problems to have, and she decides she's going to take these 3 girls to the middle of the woods in New Jersey. I see where they were trying to go with this idea, but wouldn't it have made more sense for her to go to the fucking police with these girls? At least then they got a test for the fact that she was trying to save them, and that there was some other asshole who went and killed the cops and was trying to kill them in the process. But no, because they don't know how to be fucking adults. So while they're having themselves a little powwow, Cassie then explains to the girls that she's clairvoyant and can see into the future, and she saw Ezekiel kill all of them, and that's why she needed to get them the hell out of there. Then we have to suffer through some incredibly awful dialogue that sounds like it was written by some fucking 7-year-old who's never spoken to people before. So doing the smart thing, Cassie decides that she needs to go back to her apartment because she's pretty sure she knows who Ezekiel is. The girls wait around for a little while and decide fuck it, they're going to go to a diner and hang out and be assholes. While Cassie's back at her apartment, she decides to try and see if she's a spider person and looks like a retard.
Spooky bag.
And then happens to find a picture of Ezekiel and her mom as if she's never seen it before. There's like 30 things in this fucking chest and she's never seen this picture before. Cassie goes back to the forest to find the girls are gone. Turns out that at this diner, they're too busy being jackasses dancing on a table and causing all sorts of commotion. Cassie then has a vision, seeing that Ezekiel finds them at the diner and kills all of them. So Ezekiel happens to get there before Cassie, unlike the vision, and Cassie drives her fucking car through the windows and right into Ezekiel. Somehow this isn't enough to kill him, so she saves the girls and takes them back to a hotel. So while the girls are sleeping, Cassie decides to fuck off another time. So she goes back to the diner where she has a vision chat with Ezekiel. I don't know what the fuck's happening, but for some reason she's having a conversation with him where he explains for a 3rd fucking time his whole purpose in this movie, but he's not actually talking to her. It makes no fucking sense. I don't know. Cut to the next morning, and for some reason she decides she's going to teach them CPR for a very, very long period of time.
So, assessing the situation, are they breathing?
No, Rose, they are not breathing, and they have no arms or legs.
No, that's not part of it.
Now, if only she taught them how to cure blindness, that would really come in handy later. So then she decides that she needs to go to Peru to find answers, and she says fuck them kids and leaves for a 3rd time, leaving them with Ben. Ben, for some reason, doesn't question the fact that there's an APB out on this woman for kidnapping children, and he casually just rolls with it. While she's in Peru, after about 5 minutes of being there, she comes across the guy who happened to birth her. He was just hanging out casually waiting, and for some reason he has a full American accent. He then explains that all her powers would be unlocked as long as she learns to forgive her mom and forgive herself or some shit. So she goes on a little vision quest looking a little bit like Doctor Strange, And she gets to firsthand watch all the things that happened with her mom, learning that Cassie was supposed to be born with some sort of muscular disease, and her mom was on a hunt to try to cure it so that her baby could be healthy. Now, while Cassie's watching all this unfold, it's fucking hilarious, just because it kind of looks like when someone knows they have a surprise birthday happening, and they have to try to pretend to be happy about it, like, oh my god, wow, you did it. So she forgives her mom, and now all of a sudden she's a fucking mind wizard or whatever the fuck is happening. So while the girls are with Ben, Mary ends up going into labor, and for some reason, instead of leaving him in the house where nobody knows that they're there, they tag along for the car ride and fuck everything up because a camera picks up one of their faces, and Ezekiel's back on the hunt for him. What a bunch of fuckwits. Cassie just so happens to show up right after they leave, and then she steals an ambulance. This woman is a fucking serious criminal. She just keeps doing all sorts of illegal shit.
Does my character have brain damage?
So Ezekiel's chasing the girls through the city, and he has his tech lady change all of the streetlights in order to cause them to crash. Apparently you could just do that with 2003 technology, but fuck it. So he lands on their hood, and he's about to finish them off finally, when out of fucking nowhere, Cassie somehow drives through a road, comes out of a billboard about 2 stories tall, and just so happens to fucking hit Ezekiel in midair for a second time. A second time she hits this man with a fucking vehicle. And this time she was flying. It was crazy. So we're finally at the finale of the movie where Cassie leads the girls into a random-ass fireworks factory, so she begins sabotaging all the crates, leading to a big old final showdown extravaganza. All the fireworks launching all over the place, and it makes me think that maybe this place is owned by the Acme Corporation, because these fireworks are goddamn cartoonish. I'm not sure if the writers are fully aware of how strong a firework is, but it is not strong enough to blow holes through brick walls. So Cassie takes the girls up to the roof of the building, where she calls in a helicopter and is trying to be rescued. As she's up there trying to get the helicopter to come down, fireworks just all happen to be firing directly at her and the girls, but then luckily she remembers her omnipotent clairvoyance powers and remembers her special training.
Just remember the 5 D's of dodgeball. Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
And at some point, she manages to deflect a firework directly at the helicopter, causing it to crash. She's now a fucking murderer. She is a shit hero. She's killing people. There was an innocent person in that fucking helicopter, and she just decides she wants to look like Captain America. She bats it away with a piece of metal, and then killed a guy. And of course it wouldn't be a final fight without the big bad guy who, in all of the visions, instantly killed the women, but this time because of plot armor, he's just gonna toss them around a little bit, and they're perfectly fine. Cassie then discovers she has a new ability where she can make phantom-y ghost versions of herself to help save the girls while they all happen to be simultaneously hanging on for dear life. She then delivers a one-liner that I assume the writers thought sounded very tough and awesome, but this is how it goes, and I quote, "You kept trying to change your future. You thought the girls were your future. I was." Fucking riveting. She then uses her psychic bullshit powers to get Ezekiel to walk into everything that's flying at him, and then he's crushed by a giant Pepsi sign. No, I'm not fucking kidding. He literally dies from product placement.
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
Why, there's a giant Pepsi sign on top of a fireworks factory instead of the sign for the fireworks factory. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. They don't know. Bucket. Cassie then falls into the water below, and as she's sinking, a random-ass firework shoots her in the face. I shit you not. She gets hit in the fucking face with a firework and goes blind. Like, there's no damage or nothing. She's just fucking blind and crippled for some fucking reason. It shows her in the hospital and she's fucking blind and crippled. Why not? So Cassie's finally happy for once in her life being a blind cripple, and she adopts the 3 girls and they all live happily ever after. That's it. That's basically the story. I'm sure I missed out some key parts. I'm just kidding, there's no fucking key parts, it's fucking stupid. So what could I say about this movie? It's shit. That's it. This movie is absolute shit. There is not a single intentional thing about this movie that was good. The story on its own is absolutely incoherent and all over the place. It's a fucking mess. They had no idea where the fuck they were going with this movie, and you can obviously see it. Even if you watch any of the interviews with the director or the writers, they had no fucking clue what they were doing. Half of the movie's runtime is just repeated scenes. Every time she has a vision, nothing really changes. You get to watch the same scene 2 or 3 times over and over again throughout the entire movie. After a while, I just couldn't stop thinking, fucking kill them. Just kill these fucking people. I'm tired of them. I'm done. I don't want to see it anymore. I was rooting for Ezekiel like half the time. Not gonna lie. I just wanted it to end. If I had to sit there for another 20 minutes of watching these women pretend to act, I might have burned down the theater. I might have. It was fucking insanity. I don't know who the fuck wrote the dialogue to this thing, but I swear it had to be someone under the age of 7. And just nobody had any passion. There was no fucks given. Even poor Adam Scott and Mike Epps were dragged into this bullshit, and they looked like they could give 2 fucks about anything happening. I think the only person in this entire movie that did any sort of research was Sydney Sweeney, and bless her fucking heart, she was so excited because she thought she was actually going to get to do spider people shit and be a hero.
Of Julia, who's always upside down, feet together, very ballet aerialist moves. So I begged and begged and begged to have my character drop from the ceiling because that's just what Julia would have done.
But between her and Dakota Johnson, they also thought that they were being hired by the MCU. They had no idea this had nothing to do with it, which would probably explain why Dakota Johnson fired her agent after the first trailer dropped. Now, if I had to pick anything that was positive about this movie, this was unintentionally one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen. That and Sydney Sweeney's in it, and you know. Holy shit! And according to the writers, Madam Webb never had a background story, so they just thought they could do whatever the fuck they felt like doing. Even though in the comics, she was blind and crippled since birth, she was put on a life support system developed by her husband, but God forbid we give a female lead a love interest that's a man and not a fucking house cat. So overall, I would recommend to everybody, don't watch this movie. Don't. I mean, if you want a good laugh, grab a bunch of beer, get with your friends, and you'll have the time of your life. You'll never say it's a good movie. I can promise you that. But this might be one of those special movies where you'll actually remember it just for how shitty it was. So that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I really appreciate anyone who checks this out. Feel free to like and subscribe, or don't. You're all adults. And if you're not, get the fuck off your parents' iPad. Go read a book. Go outside. Go do something. I'll see you on the next one.